Welcome back to Regulated and Rooted. I am Dr. Jonathan Locke and I'm here with Tiffany. Today we're talking about something that most people never want to face. Your health problem isn't a motivation problem, it's identity. You don't lack discipline. You've been extremely disciplined. You've just been disciplined in the wrong direction. Remember, every snack, every scroll, every late night, every excuse, those were not accidents. They were choices repeated, and repeated choices create a lifestyle. So today we're asking, are you treating your body like a tool or a temple? We're calling this episode 4 Tools or Temples, Why Motivation Fails and Identity Wins.
And this is not about shame. This is about freedom, because God did not design us to live tired and inflamed, anxious and distracted. He designed us for peace, for clarity, for strength and purpose.
Yeah, motivation is emotional. Discipline is spiritual, but it's also habitual. Motivation shows up when things feel good, but discipline shows up when they don't. And most people are waiting to feel ready, but healthy people don't wait until they feel ready. They decide and they take action. A lot of people will say, I'm just not disciplined. No, you need to realize you are incredibly disciplined. You've been disciplined enough to eat the same junk, scroll every night, stay up late, skip movement and exercise, and avoid discomfort. That takes consistency. Now, you didn't drift into this like you're just floating on a balloon. You trained into this, and you are living proof that habits work. They just work in whatever direction that you aim them at.
Yes, so good, Jonathan. And motivation is an emotion first and foremost. So that's really important to remember, is emotions come and go. They're fleeting, they're not consistent, and they're going to change based on our thoughts, based on our feelings, our environment. So to wait upon or rely upon motivation is not the avenue that we need to be taking before we start taking care of our health. We will be waiting forever if we're waiting to feel motivation. And it's important also to remember, how many other things in life do we do unmotivated? No one is always motivated or feels like going to work. You're at your office right now. Like, did you feel like getting up at the crack of dawn and going into your office? Not always, right? Do we feel like waking up at the crack of dawn with our children every single day? Not always, right? We don't wait for motivation to do these necessary things. We do them because out of obligation, first and foremost, but also out of the fact that those things matter to us and that they are a priority. The third thing about motivation is that it absolutely precedes momentum. So when we slowly build, emphasis on slow, when we slowly build these habits, these healthy habits into our lifestyle with these baby steps, and we begin to stack those wins and create that momentum, then it actually begins to generate that feeling of motivation more often. So it's one of those things where we have to sometimes commit to do the work, and then we will begin to generate this feeling of motivation. And then the last point I'm going to make around this is that waiting for the right season and motivation is literally the worst idea. And here is why. I tell women this all the time when I talk to them, and I say, if you are waiting until the easiest season or the easiest point of your life to decide to take care of your health, then you're guaranteeing that when life gets difficult and the season is hard, that you're going to fail, because you're not training yourself to do things in difficult seasons or when things are hard. You're training yourself to do it when it's easy. And therefore, when it becomes difficult, you don't know how to handle it and you let it all go. So one of the most important things you can do is say, okay, this is my most difficult, most hard, most strenuous season. And this is when I'm going to start taking care of my health so that I can build these habits in a place that is difficult and be able to sustain them. And scripture says that our body is a temple, right? So not a place to store stress, not a trash can for whatever is convenient. I say all the time that I don't want to feel like a trash can. And if I eat like a trash can, I will feel like a trash can. Our body is not something that we need to be running into the ground and just hope that it keeps up. We need to care for it, we need to protect it, and we need to respect it. One of my favorite analogies is if on the day you were born, someone were to say, here is a car that you can have for the entire rest of your life. You get this one car. We're gifting it to you. But the whole span of your life, this is the only car you're going to get. Think about how you would take care of that vehicle. You would make sure that you were changing the oil, you were getting new tires. Like, you would absolutely protect, honor, and respect this vehicle because it's the only one you're going to have for your entire life. Well, our bodies are absolutely no different because we're given one on the day we're born, and we're told this is the vehicle, this is the vessel for your soul that you're going to have for the entire rest of your lifespan. And yet we would take more care of a car than we would our body. At least that's what I see and find quite often. And a temple is intentional. And intentionality is the greatest driver for protecting your health. Too often we are in autopilot and we are not slowing down long enough to make intentional choices. If we slowed down and thought really intentionally, we would make healthier, more aligned choices for ourselves. And I tell my clients all the time, ask yourself, before you do something or before you eat something, ask yourself, does this serve me? Does this choice serve my body and my goals? And lean in and lead yourself from that place. That is intentionality. And along the lines of intentionality is stewardship. And stewardship says this is not mine to abuse or neglect. We need to remember that. Our bodies are a gift from God, handcrafted by the Maker, and it's not ours to abuse or neglect. It's a loan. It's a gift. It's a beautiful gift. And I am responsible for how I treat it. Okay. So, and not from an obsessive place, not from shame, but from honor, honoring the gift. And that shift will change everything because it's going to move us from a place of this dreaded obligation to, quote, be healthy, to a place of self-leadership and stewardship with a deep desire to honor our bodies well and our choices.
Absolutely. Most people treat their body like a tool. And I have a friend who's really big into cars, loves exotic cars and race cars. And I said to him one day, a car is a tool. It gets me from point A to point B. And yes, I've got to do regular maintenance on it, but I spent almost $1,000 just this morning to fix my truck to keep it going for another couple of years. And at first it was like, do I get rid of this car and get another one? Is it that time? All those things go through my head. We don't have that choice with our body. We have this body, but we're still treating it just like a tool. People will say things like, just get me through today, like get me through this stress or this season. And they're not really saying these things to their body. They're actually calling out to God. They're actually asking for help. And then they throw junk at their bodies and they still expect these miracles to happen. But back to the car, you would not pour diesel into a gas engine, but we do it to ourselves every day. And just started thinking about my trash can, actually cleaning out my trash can this morning. You know, trash cans are very stinky. No matter they're empty or full, they are stinky. And I'll hear people say things like, eating healthy is just too hard. And I say, no, living sick is hard. Being exhausted is hard. And taking meds forever, that's hard. Missing out on life with your family, that's hard. Look, obesity is not an easy path. It's a delayed, harder path.
So well said. Absolutely. And really, comfort now costs us later. The I'll start Monday. I hear it all the time. I'll start Monday. I'll start next week. The just this once. But like, when is it ever just once? I mean, let's be real with ourselves, right? Staying where it's easy. It feels harmless in the moment, but it compounds and it later turns into never. I have this personal thing with myself where if I say I'm going to do it later, I have this visual red flag that pops up. I say red flag thought because later means never in my life. No. And discipline, on the other hand, it's uncomfortable now. Absolutely. You and I both get that. But it builds freedom you can actually live in later. If you haven't changed yet, it's not because you're incapable. Hear us both out here. It's likely because you're still choosing familiar comfort over necessary discomfort. You are more loyal to your discomfort than you are loyal to yourself and your health. You want change, but you will not get uncomfortable long enough to see real change. And I know our brains are constantly fighting us. They want us to feel safe. They're convincing us that hard equals bad, and that is just not true. Hard does equal a challenge, but challenge is not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing to be challenged because that is what is going to develop discipline. And that is not shame talking, that's awareness. And awareness is where change can begin.
Absolutely, Tiffany. We're not aware because we're distracted. We're actually so distracted that it's affecting our sleep, and most people are sleep deprived by choice. We've talked about this. People choose Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and they go into this midnight scrolling, and it's stealing tomorrow's energy. So tell me what a lot of moms have told you in the past.
So many moms tell me this is my only quiet time. And I do get it. I know you do too because you have a young child. Like, mine are teenagers now, but you're very much in this season. And I get it. We both do. And if you're a mom with babies and toddlers, like, hear me out. This is not your season for this message. I am speaking to those of you who have the control to prioritize sleep and you aren't. So the thing is if that quiet time is costing you sleep, you're borrowing peace from tomorrow. And that bill is going to show up as exhaustion, short patience, not helpful when you have young children, brain fog, zero energy for the things that actually matter, like taking care of your children or work. And it feels like relief at the moment when you're staying up late and you're scrolling and you're getting that quiet time, but this is not real rest. And you deserve real rest, not just survival time at the end of the day. And here's the thing I see a lot. We've been engineered to believe that we deserve these things that cost us and cause us self-harm. So what I mean by that is that we don't actually deserve the brain fog, the fatigue, the short temper that comes with lack of sleep. But we tell ourselves we deserve the late night scroll or the Netflix binge. But these things lead to that horrible outcome. So then my question becomes when I'm talking to women is, do you actually believe you deserve to feel like this every day? Because your choices say you do. That you do believe that. So maybe a reframe is in order. You deserve a bath and an early bedtime so you're not tired the next day. Your mind is sharp and you're happier. That is self-care. Okay? We throw around the self-care thing, but that is self-care. And some tools you can practice, which I understand will not be popular with you when I say these, but TV off by 9 p.m. We turned our TV off at 8:57 last night. No screen night. Just one night per week. Just challenge yourself. One night per week where you don't have a screen. Read a book. Have a conversation with your significant other. Or just go to sleep. Phones outside of the bedroom. I'm still getting good at this. I am by no means where I want to be with it. But for the most part, I try to plug my phone in and keep it in my office until I'm going to sleep, and then I'll bring it in to use as my alarm, or I'll use my watch as my alarm. Let me tell you, when you challenge yourself to put your phone outside your bedroom at night, catch how many times you subconsciously reach for it and tally them up. The very first time I did this, I reached for my phone 27 times in 2 hours. And I was like, oh no, I'm addicted. That was not good data, but it got my attention. And how about how about we read? Read again, pray, end your day with gratitude. Journal. I'm huge on journaling. Journal what your day looked like. What are the gifts? What is the beauty that was in it? What do you want to do a little bit differently the next day? And the last point is that sleep is a spiritual discipline as much as it's a physical one. So, talking about the brain fog, it protects your mind. A foggy, stressed mind from lack of sleep can't operate well. It can't make those wise, intentional choices that we're talking about, and it just wants to survive.
We think that taking some of this me time should be relaxing, but it definitely can cost us, especially when you're spending that time in front of the screen. I'm right there with you. We've talked about this as we were prepping for this episode, and that I found myself sometimes caught in this cycle of a desire to be needed. And so then, even though my phone is not buzzing, if it's on vibrate or making a noise, I think, well, maybe I didn't hear it. Maybe I didn't hear it go off, so I need to go over and touch it and see if there's actually a notification. So you get hooked into this. We talked about the dopamine, which we're going to talk more about later. Another thing that convenience can cost us is poor planning, or I should say another thing that staying up too late and being tired can cost us is poor planning. You end up waking up tired, trying to rush into your day, and many of the things that happen in the morning time especially could have been handled the night before you went to bed. So just know that most bad eating is just poor planning. So I'm talking about, fast food is not this, quote, busy life food. It's actually unprepared life food. Eating out constantly is actually a symptom. It's a symptom of overload, of distraction, and no margin in your life. You've added that stress to your life. It's not that you can never eat out. Simply make the choice. Don't leave yourself so unprepared to eat each day that your only choice is to eat fast food or make some other poor choices. If you don't plan for your food and for your day, then corporations are going to plan that day for you.
So valid. And let me just speak to this for a moment from like this practical lens, right? So when I'm working with women on bettering their health, one of the things that I teach them is, first of all, how when you are prepared, you give yourself the gift of time and less stress in the future. Because when you're prepared, you're not then constantly spinning your wheels and feeling stressed because you don't know what you're gonna have for breakfast, and then you don't know what you're gonna have for lunch. So you drive here and you pick up this, and this is convenient. And then you don't know what you're gonna have for dinner, and you get home and it's been a long day, so you order a pizza. And before you know it, you're just in this constant, this rapid cycle. And that is so much capacity on your brain. And it is so much stress. Like, we are creating our own stress by not spending just 30 minutes or an hour doing slight meal prep or preparation of any kind. Meal prep gets a bad rap because a lot of diet culture over the years has made it seem like, okay, we need to do 7 meals a week, 3 meals a day. Everything needs to be planned. That feels very, very overwhelming. That's going to push us out of capacity. So one thing I teach is, what is the one meal each day where you feel like you have the least control? You catch yourself going to get that takeout and you feel stress around that. Start there. It just starts with that one meal. A lot of women, I find, that's lunch. So just do some small things. Cut up some fruit, cut up some vegetables, have some lean proteins on hand that you can throw together on a salad or throw into a wrap or make a grain bowl. Keep it very, very simple. You don't even have to cook these things ahead of time. But that little bit of 30 minutes of prep that you do on, let's say, a Sunday evening can give you back dividends of time every single day at lunch, and it's going to remove stress. Like, it's a win-win. Why not?
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like lunch is one of those where I think about it sometimes the morning and go, oh no, what am I going to eat for lunch today? And then trying to prep some kind of lunch while I'm making breakfast and making lunch for my son. So I'm prepping and making lunch for him, but I sometimes don't take the time to prep for myself or for my wife. So that's an easy time to do it, but also makes it more stressful. If you think about it ahead of time, many people will make the next day's lunch from leftovers from the dinner before, or they'll make their child's lunches the night before so it's already ready to go. Same thing, simple thing is like coffee. Like our coffee makers are prepped now. You can set a time on them and go. And I'm just really loving this, but I do want to talk about something that is sensitive to some Christians. And in church and from the pulpit, we talk about these things like porn and pride and anger, greed, drugs, and alcohol, but we ignore gluttony, the addiction of food consumption and self-neglect. And we have pastors that are preaching holiness and doing a great job while they're slowly dying, and nobody says anything.
Right, absolutely. Beautiful transition, because this matters. This matters a lot. And it's something I'm very passionate about, because we care deeply about souls, and then we forget that these bodies are carrying souls. And your body is not separate from your spiritual life, okay? When you're chronically exhausted and inflamed, you're running on sugar, 4 hours of sleep, it's harder to focus, harder to show up, harder to lead and love, and not because you're less spiritual, okay, but because you're depleted. Big difference. Your physical health does not determine your worth. That is not what either of us are saying. However, it's absolutely impacting your capacity, and capacity matters when you're called to lead, to mother, to father, to serve, to steward influence. And taking care of your body is not vanity, it is alignment. My favorite word, alignment. It's making sure the vessel can carry what God has placed inside of it.
And you think you love that word alignment. As a chiropractor, that's like my jam, right? So I want you to use those tools that Tiffany gave you about screens. It's something very similar. This is not about blame. This is about taking something out of today's episode and saying, I would like to try that. Whatever it is, then do it. And then tomorrow, ask yourself again, would I like to do that again? And then do it again, or don't do it. Make another choice that's a positive for you. Now, we find ourselves in this era of notifications, like we talked about earlier. Our phones have turned into slot machines. Pull it, refresh it, scroll it. Maybe somebody needs me. Maybe something happened. Maybe I'm important. It feeds this desire to feel needed. But distracted people are easy to control. They're easy to market to. They're easy to medicate. They're easy to manipulate. Strong people fight back. That's almost becoming a motto that we're repeating over and over. You listen, if you don't think that you're easy to market and manipulate to, then just watch a drug commercial. If you close your eyes and listen to it, you'll hear them start saying things like, may cause cancer, stroke, death, uncontrollable diarrhea. A commercial I saw the other day or heard the other day said it will cause a brain problem that has no symptoms and could kill you. Meanwhile, they're all smiling on the beach and sitting around a campfire. That is distraction. They're trying to tell you, don't think, just consume.
I know. Those drug commercials, they get me every time. I'm like, this is so bad. And it's interesting because right before this we were talking about gluttony and how that affects us spiritually. Let's note that the constant consuming we're doing of social media and media in general is another form of gluttony. Is it not? One of the things that I teach to the women that I'm working with is scrolling. Like, hear us out. We both scroll. Scrolling isn't wrong. Okay, Netflix watching, binging is not wrong. Okay, we're not saying that, but putting it in front of or in place of your health and habits and what serves you is wrong, because you're prioritizing the gluttony of consumption and consuming things over your own health, your own physical, spiritual, mental health. And that is unaligned. We talk about that word alignment, right? So I'm going to share this personal story. And as we were preparing for this podcast episode, I was like, I know I need to share this, but I really don't want to share this. Um, so I've been working on my phone now since we started our business back in 2020. And so I have a business phone and I have a personal phone. And I had zero phone boundaries. If I was in the bed, I was on my phone. If I was in the kitchen, I was on my phone. If I was in the car, I was on my phone. One of Matt's favorite things to do is to drive around and just talk and listen to music and enjoy the scenery. And one day he had a real heart to heart with me about my phone. And I want to share this because the way he put this really rattled me. He said, he gave the example of being in the car. And he said, it's like when you pick up your phone, and I'm going to pick up my phone. He's like, it's like when you pick up your phone, you enter into a world that I'm not privy to and a part of, and you shut yourself out. It's like you're shutting a door and you're in that world, and you're just existing in this shell, and I'm next to you. And I was like, whoa, because I don't know about you, but that is like, that really rattled me. And I thought that's his perception. And I know that's other people's perception, because how often are we jumping into this virtual world, shutting out the people around us that are literally right there, whether it's our spouse or our children. And so we're becoming gluttons of consumption of social media as well. And on that note, change doesn't start with a new goal. It starts with who you decide you are. And this is a really important transition, because this is about identity. And this is a huge reason why motivation is failing people. So I'm trying to eat better sounds optional, but I'm a woman who takes care of her body, or I'm a man who takes care of his body, hits differently. I'm trying to sleep more feels negotiable, but I protect my rest is this beautiful boundary. See, goals are temporary, but identity is what you're operating from. Think about the person you want to become, and then build habits and goals from that place and around that. And here's the thing, when your identity shifts, your habits stop feeling like a fight, because they align, there's that word, with who you believe that you actually are. So this all starts with belief. And if you tell yourself the story of, I can't work out in the morning, I can't eat healthy, I can't stay disciplined, that has become your identity. So when you change your story to, I will, not I can, I will become the person who works out in the morning, or I will become the person who eats healthy foods that serve my body, your entire belief changes and your actions will follow that. It's very important to note, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So we need to stop aligning with the stories and lies that are holding us hostage from change in health, okay? And align with the truth of who you are and what you are capable of. Because those stories you're telling yourself and those lies are coming from the father of lies. That's coming from the enemy. That's not who God says you are, and he says you're capable, for you can do all things through him who gives you strength.
Yes, definitely. Conversations about this thing right here, the phone. It's really interesting because I can stand there and have a conversation with 2 or 3 people going back and forth, but as soon as I pull this thing up and get it in front of my face, I become myopic. I focus in on just this, and for some reason, I can't also focus on some person in front of me. And whatever conversation is happening here seems to always take the priority away from that real life interaction. So there's some habit forming issues around our phone as well. And we have to remember that healthy people don't negotiate basics. They don't debate things like water or their sleep, their movement, eating whole foods, their prayer time. It's just who they are. And your body was not built for this constant consumption that we've found our lives moved into. Your body was built for a purpose. It's built for service. It's built for strength. You are not weak. You are trained. Now we have to retrain.
Absolutely. I love that. If you can build unhealthy habits, you can build healthy habits. The reverse is also true. You can reverse unhealthy habits. You can create healthy ones. So to make this practical, start small. What was I talking about earlier? Small, right? Start small. Start today. We're not waiting till Monday. Okay? We're not doing that anymore. We don't do that anymore. We are not going to do that. That is not going to serve you. Later means never. So you're going to start today. You're going to start with what's in front of you. If all it is you are able to, with the capacity you're at, you are able to get 5-minute walk in you didn't do yesterday, and get water in because you never drink water, that is a beautiful place to start, because it starts with intentionality, right? Faithfulness in the little things matter. Steward those well and let God multiply it. Small moves create big results.
Amen. Strong people fight back, and disciplined people live free. Free people change the world. We'll see you next time.